Hi guys, Dr. Gaynor here, and welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom. Today we want to talk about, or I want to talk about, financial stress and mental wellness. Let's break the cycle of the impact that financial stress can have on our mental well-being. I will give you guys a few minutes to get in. Again, today we are talking about financial stress and mental health. Let's break the silence. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. And let's start to talk about it. Summer is starting. There are going to be a lot more purchases and hopefully vacations and enjoyment and experiences. And experiences cost money. So let's talk about how to start to break the cycle and the impact that financial stress can have on our mental wellness. Money anxiety isn't greed. It's about survival. So let's start to rewire our brain. The first thing I want to talk about is, let's face it, we've all struggled with financial stress. And I want to talk a little bit about what happens in your brain when we are experiencing stress. We've all heard of the fight or flight mode. So what's happening is, as we experience stress, what that's telling our brain is that we're in danger. So we're in that fight mode. So what tends to happen as a result is our heart is racing, our adrenaline is pumping. Sometimes we're sweating. We're not quite having the most logical thoughts, because what our body is doing is fueling us and getting us ready to fight, to flee, to protect ourselves. And while that's useful if we are in a dangerous situation because we're able to get away faster, our reflexes are faster physically, it's not helpful when it comes to something like financial stress, where we need to be able to think clearly to make the right choices. And so the first thing that's really important to do, and this is going to sound super simple, but it's super effective, it's breathing. Our breath is everything. It's how we live. It gives us oxygen to our brain. It helps us to think. It helps us to function every day. And if we're not in control of that breathing, then we're not in control of the thoughts we have. And if we're not in the control of the thoughts we have, we can tend to make bad choices. So one of the things I would recommend is, if you notice that you have fast heart racing when you're experiencing financial stress, put your hand over your heart. 2 hands. It's telling your heart, it's telling your body that I'm okay. We're okay. We have a moment to stop. And then start to take intentional breaths. Breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, for as long as you need to, until your body is starting to calm down and react to what you're telling it. If you cannot be in a calm state, you can't effectively deal with the stress that does come with money. And then after we're in a calm state, let's start to break the shame cycle. So you can't budget effectively when you're overwhelmed. And so what can tend to happen is, when you're overwhelmed, you can tend to have extreme reactions. So maybe spending too much money in order to get out of debt and putting yourself in bigger issues, or freezing and not doing the right thing. Maybe continuing to make the wrong purchases and not even realizing where your money is going. Essentially not even really being able to think of a plan, and panicking and thinking there's no way out. When we think there's no way out, when we feel desperate, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel hopeless, it can tend to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if I feel like I can't do it, then all my actions tend to follow that. And then there isn't anything I can do. But the truth is, that is not the case. So what we can do is stop and calm our bodies down. Remind our brains that when we're overwhelmed, we cannot make good choices financially. And then let's take away the shame. To be quite honest, there have been lots of times I know have not made the right decisions with finances. I'm sure we all have. Even early in my career, trying to figure out how to budget with business. And there were a lot of mistakes I made in trying to figure out how to do it all. Mistakes are a part of life. So be okay with the fact that you've made mistakes. The danger of making mistakes is not learning from them, but it's not in making the mistake itself, because we all have things that we don't do well. And a lot of times our best teachers, our best lessons are the missteps that we make. So let's let go of the shame. If we're struggling, if we're in debt, if we're not quite sure how to figure out how to make the money fit, if we feel like we've made bad choices, it's okay. You're human. The important thing is let's figure out how to do something different. So let's talk about the little things that we can start to do to address the financial stress that can come, even when you have a limited budget. The first thing is prioritize. There's no way that you can do everything all the time at that very present moment. It's really important that we prioritize what's important. What are the things that need to be paid now? What are the things that are essential? What are the things that maybe aren't essential or that can wait? A lot of times what that starts with is being able to write it down and get it out of your head. Or maybe do an audio memo so you can hear it. However you learn best, getting it just out of your head somewhere else so you can see the picture is really, really important. Let me see what I'm dealing with. Let me see how I can handle this. And then I can start to make some decisions about what will work and what won't work. So for instance, if I get paid twice a month and my rent is due at the end of the month, maybe the second check goes towards my rent. Maybe the second check doesn't necessarily cover the whole rent. So maybe there is a little bit of money that I need to take from the first paycheck. However, to pay that bill first when there are other bills that are more pressing or that are going to be due earlier may not necessarily be the right move. But being able to see it in front of you is going to be what's going to be essential to know how to make those choices. And then using a budgeting tool. Maybe the budgeting that you've used hasn't been effective. So things like Rocket Money and Good Budget are really helpful. Rocket Money particularly really kind of tells you where your money is going. And I think that that's important. Sometimes part of the struggles with budgeting is not knowing where some of our miscellaneous funds are going. And when we can recognize that and maybe see where we're spending where we don't have to, maybe that can start to change the landscape. Maybe we can start to save money. So maybe with grocery shopping, maybe we start to shop at Aldi's. Maybe we start to shop at the dollar store for some of the seasonings that we need because that'll help us spend less. Maybe we actually take out cash when we are buying groceries. So we know that when we spent the cash, there's no more groceries. So it kind of stops us from buying frivolous things or things that we may not need. I know I tend to go into the grocery store, and when I'm hungry, I'm making a lot of choices that may not be necessary. But when we can see the full picture in front of us and maybe where our funds are going to really understand how we're utilizing our money by using all these tools that are available, that can be really something that's very helpful. And then another thing is, you saw a promo that we did, and the promo said My Future Me Fund, and I placed $5 in it. So what that is a physical representation of the control that you do have. Just that small amount can go towards saving for something that you're excited about. And maybe it stays at $5 for the next few months, but it shows that there's a goal in mind, and that is something that you can physically have control over, that you've already been able to start. They say an emergency fund should start at $1,000, but what if it just starts at $5 and you build it over time? This is not going to be a quick fix, but it's the long road. It's the long haul. It's being able to see the little steps that will get you to where you're going to, or where you want to be. That is really going to help to manage financial stress long term. And then, how do we navigate these conversations with our friends and family? Well, first of all, we decide who we do talk about it with and who we don't. Because maybe everybody does not need to know all the information. We know that there are certain people who, when we give them personal information, maybe they make us feel worse. Maybe they make us feel guilty. Maybe they always have a challenge or something negative to say. And maybe we're in a sensitive place where we can't handle that. Then that's not the person we talk to. But what if there is a family member or a friend who is really good at financial health in general. They are able to save, they're doing well for themselves. You see that their lifestyle looks good. Don't be ashamed to ask. A lot of times we're ashamed to ask people questions because we feel like it's going to look like we're going to be embarrassed. We're going to look like we don't know what we're doing, but you never know someone else's story. You never know how or what difficulties that person went through that actually helped them to be able to make the choices that they're making. As I said before, mistakes tend to be our biggest lessons. So don't be afraid to ask. And then there are also churches that will also provide free financial classes. So the resources are out there, but first we have to stop and consider what we need. We can only do that when we calm ourselves down and when we breathe. When we stop and put everything in our head down so that we can look at the full picture. And then we can start to figure out, do I need a budgeting tool? What are my priorities? Are there people that I can reach out to and ask for help? Are there people I need to stop talking about this with? And who do I need to have this hard conversation with? Because maybe you are living with someone. Maybe you guys are sharing bills. Maybe you're married. Maybe you are co-parenting. And you really need to have hard conversations about money because that's what needs to happen to help continue to make your situation work. Identifying what your priorities are and what you need is going to be first most important before you can have a conversation with anyone. So let's start by having a conversation with ourselves, getting ourselves in a place to recognize that it's going to be okay. I can do this. Let me just start where I can start and never be afraid to ask for help. This has been Wednesday Wisdom with Dr. Gaynor. I do have my first book. It is called Nina's Smile, and it is available on Amazon and all platforms. And please continue to follow me at Dr. Gaynor Speaks on Facebook and Instagram, and also Peace of Mind Psychology on both of those platforms as well. We will see you next week, and thank you for tuning in. Bye.